Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Welcome to another episode of this channel. I'm fresh off a plane from Maui. That's right, straight from a private jet, a G650. I actually flew around the world twice and then landed to make sure I had as little time as possible to make this video, just to prove to you all how committed I am, even under extreme fatigue from being so goddamn rich. Now, today's video, I gotta be honest, is a review about the Netflix documentary Our Father, and I already shot one, but I didn't like anything I said. The only thing I liked about it was I made Alex hold a bunch of water in his mouth, and that's because you guys complained about his donkey laugh. So I made sure he could not let that donkey laugh out by playing a fun little game of you laugh, you fired, and he failed. I got him with this one right here. Penis. Oh, he's fired. He's fired. Oh my God. Out of his nose. Out of his nose. Oh my God. And then I got him again. The doctor in the other documentary, he died before anything could... I didn't even say anything. I'm gonna have to get a towel. But I digress. I'm still here to talk my shit. Now, the setup, this is temporary. I'm actually in process of changing up my office, like now. By the next video, it should be good. Now, before I get started, you know what it is. I'm on tour. I'm always gonna be on tour. NoelMillerLive.com. I'm coming to Hartford, Connecticut. Why do I go to these towns where drugs are the only option besides college? Because those are the people with the best sense of humor. Also, I got a new song coming out next Friday. Stay tuned for that. Now, on to the review of the Netflix documentary, Our Father. If you haven't heard of it, that makes sense because Netflix did not do a good job of marketing this thing. But basically, it's a documentary about a doctor who commits undeniably horrific medical crimes in the way of artificially inseminating patients with his own sample without their consent. What does that mean? He basically created a bunch of kids of his own that through the powers of Ancestry.com discover each other to be siblings, and the number starts with about 8 and continues to get higher over the course of the documentary. Now, before I dig too deeply in it, we know why you're here, because you refuse to sit through the hour and a half that is the actual documentary, and you're trusting me to condense that information into something that maybe gives you an opinion, or you can pretend like you actually watched this thing. So from this point forward, I will definitely not make up any details, like the doctor had webbed feet and that he had an incredibly small penis. That's what motivated him to artificially inseminate people without his consent. Was he was not capable of reproducing in a physical capacity. Every time he busted a nut, it just looked like a public playground drinking fountain with a lack of water pressure. You know, just kind of. Or it's like if you poured salt on a snail, that's what his semen looked like. It just, looked like a bubble bath, just kind of trying to ooze out the little slit on the head of his penis. Anyway, you probably haven't heard about this documentary because, look, Blumhouse produced it. They've produced some hits. They produced Get Out. They've produced some other movies that I can't remember. Blumhouse, much respect. You know what you're doing in some categories. Documentaries. Nah, I mean, I have to see other Blumhouse documentaries, but based on this one alone, I never want to see you guys make another documentary again. Damn, I've not been so bored watching something so awful. At no point during a piece of media that centers around pretty much sexual assault should I feel like I took an edible and should I feel like I'm falling asleep. That's dangerous. It's dangerous how bored I became. Oh, horrible choice of words. It's dangerous how bored I was watching this documentary. The first hour of this thing drags. In some ways, it kind of feels like watching TikTok because you're just watching a series of victims repeat the same line over and over. It's almost like puts you in a trance. And I'm not trying to make light of the situation that they went through. I'm lying, I am. But still, for the first hour, I was really struggling to care. And that is scary. That is scary that a production company that specializes in thrillers and keeping you on the edge of your seat had me not caring at all about this story. Real quick, let me just interrupt the vibe and do an ad read for NordVPN. You know what it is. If you are going raw online and you need a way to protect yourself, NordVPN is a great way to do that. It's very easy to use, works on a ton of different devices, literally just one click and go with it. They got a ton of servers. They work in many different countries, and what that means is you can have a fast connection pretty much wherever you are. Another great benefit of using a VPN is your ISP does not know how much internet you're using, so they can't throttle you. They cannot slow down your online behavior. You can be as online online as you want to be. Also, if you're going to start traveling again, it's a great way to access content back home, or maybe you're at home and you want to access content from somewhere else. Both of those things work. And for all my nerds, they offer you the ability to run your connection through 2 VPNs, a double VPN, which means you can double bag it. And right now they're doing a huge deal. If you sign up with my link, nordvpn.com/Noel Miller, you can get a huge discount on a 2-year plan, which will also give you an additional month for free. Again, if you sign up for a 2-year plan, you'll get a fat discount with an additional month for free. So stop going raw online. You can use my promo code, nordvpn.com/Noel Miller. And yeah, get protected. Now let's get back into it. Anyways, now for the sake of this review, I will, push through and discuss some of the characters in this documentary. One of the main protagonist here is Jacoba. She is one of Dr. Klein's daughters, and I'll talk about her in a second. Dr. Klein is, the evil man himself, the one, leaving his pennies in all kinds of donation buckets all over. This dude, total sicko, and I'll get back to that in a second. You see what I'm doing here? I'm doing what a documentary is supposed to do. 2 timelines, keep showing the hook. What's up with her? What's up with him? Instead of making it god-awfully fucking boring like Blumhouse did. All right. So Jacoba, she basically, as she gets older, she realizes, I look nothing like my family. So it prompts her to ask her parents, hey, was there an issue with, my birth? Did you have to use some type of alternative method? Because I've never looked like anyone in the family. I got blonde hair, blue eyes. No one in the family has that. What's the deal? And so her parents tell her, yeah, we actually had to go see a fertility doctor to assist us in this process. God damn it. Blumhouse effect, I'm yawning. She's told pretty early on in her life that, they used a fertility doctor and they weren't actually able to use her dad's semen because I guess he shot blanks. So she always was kind of excited by the idea of, oh man, maybe I have a sibling. That'd be cool if maybe I had a couple siblings. Her parents were told that the same sample was never used more than 3 times. So at most, she could have 3 siblings. When she goes on Ancestry.com, she finds out she has 8 potential matches. And that's way more, obviously, than what her parents were told. So that prompts her to kind of dig deeper. You probably expect it as much because, yeah, that's kind of the whole point of the documentary. That's not the interesting part. Fast forward, she goes to Ancestry.com. There's a bit of drama with this guy, Dr. Klein. Basically, in one way or another, they find out that there's actually 10 of them who are siblings. And the documentary finally starts to get interesting when the 10 of them go to confront Dr. Klein. And first of all, he looks at all of them and he doesn't really seem to give a shit that he's used his sample more than 3 times. What's also really concerning is this dude, in order to provide a sample that was usable, he basically just walked into the next room and then, into a tube and then walked back in the next room and placed that sample inside of someone. Horrific. Awful, bad person. And he demonstrates that he's a total psychopath when he meets with these 10 kids, and basically the only thing he's really interested in is what they do for work. And the way Jacoba describes it is he's just kind of measuring which of them are successful, which of them are not. On the off chance now you're intrigued and you want to watch it, you can pause the video now, go watch it, and then come back, because from this point forward, I'm spoiling shit. Comeback is a horrible, oh man. Something else I realized is it's really hard to talk about this subject without using the word come. Even the kids all throughout the documentary. They just, at one point, one of the kids, Matt, he throws his hands up and he goes, come on. I'm like, yeah, one guy did come on, bro. Your real dad. Now, it kind of, the whole thing really comes to a head when they find out in one way or another that the dad, Dr. Klein, he basically kind of subscribes to some weird, religious white supremacy ideology. And as the kids start to discover each other and look each other in the face, they all realize they have this, blue eyes, blonde hair look. And at this point, all they know of are only 30 some siblings, right? They're all kind of looking at each other pretty disgusted, man, are we just, the product of some weird bigot? Now, here's the worst part, is that this dude, Dr. Klein, is not on paper qualified to issue a semen sample for artificial insemination. He's got pre-existing conditions, and no one would ever let him splooge into a can to artificially reproduce. All these people now are alive, and they're all discovering one by one that they have weird health issues, whether it's stomach or They list a number of conditions, and some of them they've dealt with it their whole life. He's basically created a generation of people that are kind of doomed to have, medical illnesses. More than that, the dude doesn't really show any remorse, And it made me think of the Hulu documentary about this same subject. And when you stack Dr. Klein up against the doctor who's the subject of the Hulu documentary, it makes me think that in order to get into med school, there needs to be some kind of way to, vet these men who have no bitches. Because I feel like if these dudes ever felt the genuine embrace of a woman, they would not be compelled to be so evil. Or at least, that would pass some type of test, right? You should be able to communicate with a woman effectively if you're going to be like an OBGYN, right? Maybe not. I've heard doctors are like soulless pieces of shit. But that was my main takeaway by the end of the documentary, which was like, we should not have dudes working with women who can't even really talk to them, make them comfortable. Because as much as I want to joke, it freaked me out, By the end of the documentary, they identify like 40-some doctors that do this. Now, when you compare them against the total population of doctors that work in fertility clinics, they are a very, very small percentage, thankfully. But is this one of those things, where it's like, is this going to be like Teflon, where in like 10 years we find out that all these fertility doctors are freaks and the human race comes from like 7 dudes? That's creepy, man. National Geographic is thinking the future is going to be, people like me, just default as fuck. No real defining character traits, just bland. But instead, we're going to have an Aryan race that has gastrointestinal problems, which is horrifying. I don't want to sit here and fearmonger about medicine and all that. That's not my goal. My goal is to review a documentary. And so I have to say, the front half of the documentary sucked ass. And that's unfortunate because it would make most people tap before getting to the real concern, which is this dude, Dr. Klein. And it would freak you out that a guy like this could get into medicine because apart from him being a total psycho, this guy was well regarded in the fertility practice. He was like a name. He was a brand name in the business. People looked to him as like a guy that could do miracles because he could. He figured out ways to get women through pregnancy that just couldn't. He kind of explored surgeries that I think are now like standard practice, and he was kind of the one to maybe help pilot them or at least make them effective and learn how to do them well. And what makes it really scary is that early on in the documentary, you see a couple of his friends. It's a man and a woman, and they are discussing how they went through college with him, and this was a side of him that they could have never predicted. And then they interview Dr. Klein's friend's daughter. Yep, she's got blonde hair, blue eyes, and guess what? He fucking punked his friend too, his own friend from college and the woman. He punked them both with his own shit. This guy was nuts. He's a sick person, candidly, sick person. And I think that's the craziest part of this documentary is that by the end of it, you could not be more terrified by a dude in medicine. And all it takes is one. In the Hulu doc, they went one step further and they interviewed some of his peer doctors. And those guys didn't give a shit. They were just kind of like, yeah, well, we'd supply our own samples. We did it in college. We just used to do it for money. So it wasn't that weird that we were doing it by the time we became actual doctors. In Our Father, they have Dr. Klein, and these people actually get a chance at retribution, and it sucks. The dude is just concerned with his own image. He's on the phone with Jacoba, harassing her to, kind of stand down because basically Jacoba was bringing a lot of attention to him by the way of the news. She was like, this guy artificially inseminated my mom without her consent and several others, or I might be misspeaking there, but basically she was calling out how Dr. Klein did a lot of this without people's consent. And a Fox News station actually picked it up, and they did a lot of pieces on him, and they were really blowing it up. And the most ironic part of the whole thing was Dr. Klein complains to Jacoba, the pressure's gotten so high that it's almost forcing him to speak publicly. And he doesn't like that he's being forced to do something. And it's just like, come on, man. Come on. You're mad you're being forced to do something? Get the fuck out of here. I think a lot of times when bad shit happens like this, the human thing is to kind of think on it and go, man, if there was a shot at retribution, if there was a chance to just get in that guy's face and do something about it, I would, and this is what I would try to do, right? And then the real world hits you, and it doesn't go that way at all. Not only did this guy only care about his self-image because he was like a figurehead in his church, and obviously he's well respected in the, world of medicine. He doesn't care at all about any of these kids' feelings, doesn't acknowledge them at all. None of these people get any bit of respect in that way. Jacobo manages to get him into a courtroom and potentially press charges on him. And he was looking at, I think it was like 2 to 5 years. And when it comes down to it, the judge fucking empathizes with him. She gives him a break. And I think the dude ends up paying like a $500 fine and he walks away from it free. So even though I'm joking about the front half of the documentary being boring as shit, and I believe that, I think it's unfortunate because the second half is a like horrific reminder that the real world just doesn't give a shit sometimes. It doesn't leave you with a good feeling. It doesn't care about what you as an individual may have gone through, even if you and a small group of people have been through something. It doesn't care. It will just fuck you over sometimes. So, no, let me try to end this on a fun note. I don't think NordVPN is gonna like this, dude. So, all things considered, I would rate the documentary 8 out of 10. I would go watch it, just maybe you browse TikTok a little bit on the front half, but pay close attention on the second half. It is a brutal story, and I know I kind of jumped around and I left some details out, and I've kind of done that on purpose, so it's not so linear when you're watching it. If you choose to go watch it, at this point, I want to leave it vague enough that, or kind of out of order, that as you're watching it, you can go, God damn, because there are definitely significant pieces that I have left out in this entire video. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Thank you, NordVPN, and come see me on tour. All right, goodbye.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
This my next big thing, she precious. I'm bad and the walls asbestos. Yeah, bitch, you guessed it. TUOT on my necklace. Spock done made like 10 beats. Now I know the boy getting restless. Jab my way through the session. Doing too much, coming clutch, that's my essence.